Welcome to the Mind and Body Understanding with Jeff Farian podcast, brought to you by Farian Counseling LLC and presented by the Foolproof Entertainment Network. On today's show, we have our guest Deb back to join us from Avenue X, and we are going to talk about guilt with food and exercise. Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Reg. I'll tell you, it's been fun talking and working with Deb here, and this is one that I don't have fun with. And before we get into that, just to reintroduce Deb, Deb's a 20-plus year trainer here in Columbus. Trainer meaning a personal trainer for health and fitness. She has many family members who have been athletes in her life. We talked about her cousin in the first episode. But what you might not have known is Deb was also a long-term bodybuilding professional.
Well, not a professional.
There was
wasn't.
No money in the prizes?
No. Got a lot of big bowling trophies, but it was all, unless you are a professional, yeah, they're all amateur shows.
Okay.
Technically.
Okay. I didn't know that you didn't go for the prize money.
No.
What was that like, being a bodybuilder? I mean, I've lifted weights and I've lost enough weight and sculpted my body to at least see muscles places, but I've never been a bodybuilder. How does that experience?
I am really glad I did it because it taught me so much about diet, exercise, how to combine those properly. And what it also did was show me that magazines that are out there that say, 5 minutes every day to rock hard abs and just do this diet and you'll look like this. It doesn't work that way. It takes a combination of gruesome working out and hardcore diet to get to the point where you're competitively walking on stage and letting somebody judge your physique. So that's it. It was a huge learning experience, something that I love, that I did for about 6 years. Mm-hmm. And I don't have any interest in going down that road again. But mm-hmm. Like I said, it taught me a lot about how you really do make changes in your body.
I have so many questions on this, but that would be like a 10-piece like long-term podcast series.
We could have our own a separate podcast just on that.
Well, I'm saying it could be like a series. It could be like
there you go.
Many episodes. But I think that bodybuilders are probably the worst at body shaming and guilt for how they feel about what they eat and things of that nature. They have to be the worst because any misstep can cost you the perfect form that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're here to talk about is guilt with food and guilt with exercise. The biggest thing that could drive people into therapy is the guilt from overeating, the guilt from being a big couch potato. Mm-hmm. And then the struggle that happens when you eat bad food. So talk to us a little bit, because what I haven't introduced you as is a nutrition expert, and you are a nutrition expert, Deb. Mm. So tell us a little bit about how you help people that come in with big food issues.
Well, I think that there's so many misconceptions out there that, for the most part, people know healthy foods to eat. Mm-hmm. You know vegetables, fruit, So that's where everybody's frustration comes in, because they think, well, if I want to eat healthy, I need to go buy a head of broccoli and steam it and go get some nasty white fish and eat it and like it.
But when did bread become Satan? That's what I want to know.
I'd also like between bread and pasta. When did those become bad for us?
Well, because
okay, but
if you read the Bible, bread is in the Bible every 5 seconds. With the bread of life, the bread of the earth.
But here's what I don't like, that both of you use the word bad. Bread is not bad.
Everything's acceptable in moderation.
Well, yeah, and what I help people do is understand how much bread, how much pasta. Because guess what? I grew up a carb kid. I loved noodles and spaghetti and bread. I ate toast with my breakfast. I had sandwiches. I'd come home and have carbs again. And all of a sudden it was like, well, wait, how much of this can I still eat? Can I have dessert twice a week? Can I have bread 3 times a week? I didn't know how to understand it. So I do see people putting foods in the good, bad, and best category, and I don't want to say bread's bad, but understanding better what it means when you have it is the route that I go with people, instead of saying don't ever eat bread, it's bad. It's not going to work.
Well, it just, I've struggled with diet for the last 15 years at least, and it's because I love the taste of bad food. I just love it so much, and I can't release that from my thought, and so I don't want to be an extremist either, because I've known people who've been extremists, and I know our wise woman from the She Shed has a question about like fasting, and we'll get to that in just a second, Lisa, but to me, it's how do I set myself up for success as opposed to allowing myself to fall into that failure. Because it's always tomorrow. I'm going to start tomorrow. And tomorrow is a date on the calendar that doesn't exist. And then it's always like, well, if I just have this one big binge here, it's not really going to hurt me. And then, of course, it just snowballs into this.
If I eat the whole large pizza just on Friday night.
Right. I can burn that off.
Just drink the 12 beers.
Just the 12 beers. Oh, my gosh.
Well, you've seen our other show, Jeff. So.
Yeah, that's the truth. So, Deb, I mean, how do you get a person to get in control of that?
Well, part of it is, like you said, you love the taste of food that isn't good for you.
Oh, my gosh.
And so what I first try to go establish with people is that there are probably a lot of really good things that you'd like that are going to taste good, that you'd be just fine eating, but because everybody tries to go to an extreme when they decide it's time to start doing something, because they want the fastest results, so they pick the most dreadful, most extreme thing and try to impose that on themselves to be successful with, and then when they're not, they come back, they feel guilty because they couldn't stick to their diet. And then that just becomes the huge cycle of, well, okay, if it's Thursday, they're going to start Monday because they're not going to start something on the weekend. So they'll get it all out of their system and start Monday.
Right.
Well, then by Wednesday afternoon, they're miserable because their salad doesn't taste good and they've pulled everything they love off of the table. And they're just not going to be successful then. So,
and I love the people that say, okay, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And then before they step on the scale for the weight to start, they gain 5 over the weekend and pad that 20. So they're really losing 20. They're really only losing 15 from their dedication moment.
See, Jeff, I feel personally attacked by that statement. But...
I've done it too. I've entered weight loss contests where I've gained a lot of weight just before the start of it, so it looked like I'd lose a lot more.
But I think too that the goal and the end means needs to be adjusted, instead of somebody saying, you know what, I want to lose 20 pounds. I had a guy recently come to me and he said, I'm here because I want to take steps to be better and just be a healthier person. If that produces a weight loss, great. If I feel stronger, great. So it takes some of that pressure off of what happens if you feel great and you haven't lost your 20 pounds. You're going to feel defeated and then back to feeling guilty because I didn't lose my 20 pounds. Well, but you feel 100% better than you did 3 months ago, and maybe you didn't need 20-pound weight loss as your goal. Let's just back it down and say, let's feel better. Let's not.
So let me ask you this in that regard, and I'll give way to Lisa here with this question too. The kickstart of it. You know, sometimes people think they need a kickstart. Like I've done the 24-hour juice thing where you just drink juice instead of eating, and you lose 10 pounds in like 2 days if you just drink juice for a 2-day period or whatever. And then Lisa has a question about intermittent fasting. Go ahead, Lisa.
Um, I just, it's really, really big where I'm at is the intermittent fasting, and I have a lot of people pitching it at me. Sorry about my voice. Um, but it just doesn't, I don't know what the effects and side effects of it is, because some aspects, it doesn't seem like it's a healthy choice. And I guess that's where I'm coming into, is it
So,
good? Is it
is
bad?
intermittent fasting where you fast for like an entire day?
No, it's
12
certain.
hours. Some people are doing 48 hours. And I'm like, well, that's 2 days of drinking water. Of course you're going to lose weight, but is that the healthy way to lose weight? It doesn't seem that way. So I'm hesitant on it. And like, because everybody's trying to get me on this bandwagon, and I just don't fully understand it or what people think of it.
So there's all different ways to do it, and sometimes it's a 16 hours off and 8 hours. So the idea is you give yourself a window of time to eat just during those hours. And I had several clients that were trying it, so I always like to do stuff so that I know what it personally feels like. For me, just because of my personality and how I mean, like I said, I'm a carb kid. I love carbs. I tended to eat too much in that 8 hour time frame, because it's like, okay, it's go time. I've got 8 hours, and for 16, then I can't eat. So it tended to make me personally eat more than I would have if I just wouldn't have been thinking about, okay, now here's my 6 hours I get to eat, or my 8 hours, or whatever. And I'll tell you this, Lisa, it works for some people and it doesn't work for other people. And this is that time of year when people come to me and ask me, what is the very best diet I can do, Deb? Can I, is it Weight Watchers? Should I get Nutrisystem meals? And should I intermittent fast? And my response is, do what works with your lifestyle first. Because if you try to intermittent fast and it doesn't work, let's say you're super social and you set your parameters, and all of a sudden friends want to go out, but now it's not on your window of allowable time to eat. I mean, how does that work for anybody? So you have to know yourself and know your habits, know your lifestyle, and then say what kind of an eating plan is going to work for me and work with my lifestyle that I can just kind of implement for the rest of life, instead of I'm on and off a diet all the time. That just doesn't work. I've never seen it work.
So how do you approach a person that's already nervous or anxious about their lives and take away the added stress and anxiety of this diet? Because to me, that's another big thing. I've had it with some clients. I'm not exactly a diet expert with clients. I talk to them about, regular healthy habits, but I'm not a dietitian, so that's not what I do. But it certainly would add anxiety to have to follow a regimented diet plan. How do you alleviate some of that anxiety? Because it's already, you already have other struggles outside of food, and we're going to talk about exercise in there too. Now I got this giant to-do list for my health, and I'm nervous and anxious about it. How do you help me with that?
I would take away that giant to-do list. And what I mean by that...
So I don't have to do anything?
What I mean by that is, again, that's the impression, is that you have to have this really regimented thing to get started. And a lot of times when someone comes to me, and I've had people who have come to me who are overeating, they're drinking every night, and I'll say, okay, can you just drink 4 nights for me? And that may sound really unorthodox, but you have to work with someone's framework that they're coming to you with. And if somebody is, I've had somebody come to me that all they were eating all day was sugar and candy, literally. And if you strip all that away and say, here's your list of vegetables, here's your list of fruits, that isn't going to work either.
Right.
So you you don't want to take something and apply more pressure so that you become even more anxious. So depending on how a person is functioning with their food, you may just say, okay, you love fast food and you're doing that 7 days a week. Can you just cut 2 of those out for me, and let's eat anything else but just don't get fast food. That'll be where I'll start with people. Not take everything away from them and they're miserable, and now they're stressed out and miserable because they don't like anything they're eating.
So remember my beer and weight loss beer idea that would be $1 billion. My next
come back to that?
My next $1 billion idea is a drive-through that actually produces healthy food.
Yeah.
Where you can just drive the convenience of the drive-through, the beauty of the pictured menu on the wall out there when you drive through.
Now I will
and
say,
the knowing that the knowledge that when you go through, instead of a $400 or 400 calorie sandwich, you're going out of there with a 150 calorie positive meal.
okay, but most of those fast
But what is that?
Most of those fast food places do have healthy options. It's just hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to choose. It's hard to choose those.
Right.
So I tell people,
But they don't put those in the big beautiful pictures, Deb.
They do. Like Wendy's salads are delicious.
They
now,
are
do
good.
I also?
But
think
they're still like
that
700 calories.
They are still relatively high in calories.
Okay, so you'll forfeit that because that salad has 700 calories, but then you opt for
Big Mac.
you opt for combo meal number 4 that's 1,800 calories.
True.
So it's just and what I tell people, if they love fast food, I don't take all that fast food away from them. Guess what? If that's part of what you love, then we're going to figure out how to get you where you want to be and feel healthier. And I'm not going to strip that totally away.
Right.
There's other options, or maybe Jeff, you mentioned that 80-20 rule. I kind of go by that with food. So if 80% of the time you're making decent choices, then guess what? If you want combo number 3, go get it. But when it becomes every night, every meal, and it's your main go-to, that's when we need to pull back from that.
Well, if it's 80-20 and you're going on 3 meals a day, that means every 4th day you can have a cheat.
Or if you eat 3 times a day, 21 meals a week.
Twice
What's
a
that?
week.
Oh, we're getting into math. I'm no good at math. Mike, what's that? What's 20%? So you've got about 5
so
meals.
You got 4 or 5 meals, yeah.
4 or 5 meals that you can screw up in a week. And
but it's how much
don't
you're
feel
screwing
guilty.
up by.
And I want to steer this back towards the Lisa question with the intermittent fasting. I look at it like when people come to me with real anxious nerves about their food and like they're not really being successful with their lives because they feel sluggish from eating too much and things like that. I talk to them about learning about it too, because I didn't know anything about nutrition until I got into coaching and teaching, and then I started learning a little bit because you're working with teenagers and they don't know anything about it.
They eat trash.
Completely. But their bodies can absorb it a lot better for some strange reason, metabolism or whatever. But Lisa, I think in the terms of teach yourself about how much nutrition your body really needs to be healthy. Because you don't need to eat as much as you eat. No one does. I mean, there's the body is able to digest and work on far fewer calories than we intake. I mean, the American culture is so far beyond, and I think it's scaled back a little bit. We were getting to the point where plates were getting bigger and bigger in restaurants, and the number of side dishes were getting more and more. And then you had all-you-can-eat buffets, the hometown buffet, and Golden Corral. We used to call that Golden Cable, and I'll tell you that inside joke some other time. But the bottom line is you don't need that many calories to survive and to be healthy. So I don't think it's totally bad to intermittent fast as long as you understand when you eat, you're eating the calories that are making you healthy and making you a survivable person. You don't just binge eat bad stuff and send your body into some kind of strange place where all you eat is bad calories when you're not fasting, because that would be very unhealthy.
Right.
But if you're fasting 16 hours and then you have healthy foods, the other 8, then fine. I don't think it's that horrible. But if you're fasting and you're eating calories just to replace the emptiness you feel in your stomach, then I think that's terrible. And I think that's a bad idea.
I think what the intermittent fasting has done too for a lot of people, overall, it should bring their calories down for the day, and just a different way of going about it.
Yeah.
And like I said, if that works for somebody, then by all means do it. I mean, I've got clients who are very successful with the whole Weight Watchers counting points things. That wouldn't work for me either, because I'd be like, oh, I'm over my points for the day. All right, well, I'll just eat another 30 points. If I'm over for the day, I might as well just really go over.
Might as well go big and go home.
And so you have to get to the point where you don't see food as good and bad. You gauge it on, I've watched so many people, as soon as they have a health issue, they will clean it up in a heartbeat. Just knock everything out, and they're clean eating.
Happened to me for a little while.
Oh, there you go.
What was that diagnosis? Do you wish to share it, right or not?
I mean, it's fine. I've talked about it. So, diabetic. Like, I went from a healthy blood panel 1 year to the next year getting my sugar checked, and it was like 300.
Oh, wow.
And I got it down pretty quickly. I'm starting to have some issues with it now, which is a little bit frustrating because, I'm back on track with monitoring the diet and those kind of things, and I'm just having trouble bringing it back down. And
sometimes something simple that people don't understand is it's not so much like I've said, the good and the bad food, but when you have flour-based food, a lot of it in your diet, there's only so much your body's going to metabolize of that in one sitting, and that's where the problem comes in. It's not that the bagel's bad, it's that really our bodies, I mean, these gigundous bagels that are out there, our bodies really, we should be eating a quarter of that.
Right, which is why we go with like the bagel thins or the whole wheat bagel.
Now, Deb,
so I'd rather, instead of eating a quarter of a bagel, I'd rather eat something else that I get more volume than just a quarter of a bagel.
And that's getting into some of the caloric density type conversations. And that's
flourless bread is like a frisbee, though, Deb. I mean, I've tried it.
I'm not saying flourless bread.
It's horrible.
Some of the things that I'll switch clients on initially are just, instead of pasta, have a potato or rice. So I'm not
brown
saying,
rice.
No, go ahead and eat white.
Doesn't
Jeff.
matter.
Eat white if you want. But I'm saying people are so entrenched in that good and bad food that it's like you can try different things and you can still have that comfort food feel and not have it be quite as detrimental.
But how do you?
Right.
I mean, right. One of our talking points today is the idea of dread, and I don't want to dread my food. That's one of the few things in my world that I really enjoy anticipating.
Right? And you should.
So I don't want
It's
to
enjoyable.
go, oh my God, it's lunchtime. I don't want that to be the case.
I don't know. See, I've done a lot with switching potatoes for cauliflower type stuff. So doing a lot of like the cauliflower.
Yeah, but I tried the cauliflower pizza and that sucked too. I didn't like that either.
You had
That's
the wrong
all.
kind.
That's
then.
all based on. Yeah, I agree.
You
in
had
terms
the
of
wrong
the brand and the
crust.
topping.
Well, I'm not going to
Yeah.
name the brand Hanados, but it wasn't very good. So, anyway.
Can I ask a question regarding the eating and the anxiety of eating?
Please.
Okay, when they say working out, it has been long put into our heads that you have to raise your metabolism and eat 3 times a day with little snacks in between. And then it's gone to the other spectrum of intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
But as for me, I maybe once a day and a snack, and that's it. So the thought of eating 3 full meals a day with a snack every like so many hours to get your metabolism right, that gives me anxiety.
Well, and that
Like
gets
I
back to what Jeff was saying, that you start seeing this list of, oh gosh, I got a meal plan and get my
Right.
snacks and get my baggies together and get my glass containers and get ready. That nobody wants that right now. And so if that works for you, Lisa, I would say keep doing that. If you like a meal and a snack or two and that works, then stay consistent at that. What I see people do is they try something for 2 weeks. Well, intermittent fasting didn't work, and they jump to the next thing, and that doesn't work. And so they just don't find that
Gotta
one
find
thing
something.
and just kind of stay consistent with it, and don't set yourself up for failure. I've watched that for years. People set them, and I try to say, don't try to do all that just yet. Let's focus on this thing, and then, you know, you don't have to dread your meal if
Well,
you want to be healthier.
I think it goes back to kind of what you were talking about in the last episode, which was the small wins, right?
Yeah.
If you can make that one decision to swap out, you know, the unhealthy snack for the healthy snack, or, you know,
And let's just say, food has become, you know, it's what we do when we celebrate. It's what we do when we're down. If somebody passes away, what do we do at the end? We have a reception and we eat. And food is just something that's a part of life and what
Yeah.
we do. And that's why I hate to see people in that good food, bad food. I mean, there are days that I feel like people are coming to confession, you know, because they'll walk in and before we even get into a workout, they'll say, Deb, I first got to just tell you, I had donuts over the weekend and we went out and I had beers and I had lasagna. And I'm like,
Forgive me,
okay.
Deb, for I have sinned.
Like, good for you. That sounds like it was fun. You know, so it's like, be consistent 80% of the time with something, and then when you go out or it's your birthday or it's the holiday, enjoy it, because you're working so hard to enjoy it, and then you get there and you can't enjoy it.
Well, and here's something I'll add, Lisa, is the one lexicon, the one tradition that I think is being omitted and not followed up by a majority, especially Americans, is sitting down at the table and having dinner with the family. I think that's gone by the wayside a long time ago. I don't know if you do or do not do that. Do you do that?
We do not. No, we don't do that. But if we make breakfast and we're all off, we do have a breakfast together.
See, I would try to bring back some of the other aspects of eating that bring positive thoughts as opposed to anxious thoughts, like spending time with your kids, spending time with your husband, spending time as a family, and making a point to try and arrange that. You don't have to do it every day if you haven't done it in a while, or if you're used to just taking the food into the TV trays in the living room or whatever. But I would make a point to try to do it once or twice a week, just to have things besides the food be a part of the nutrition of your life. You know,
Yeah.
be able to sit down and have a meaningful conversation and enjoy the back and forth. I mean, I enjoy the back and forth that we're having just doing this podcast. So that's fun for me. That's entertaining for me. I don't get to see you and my brother that often, you know, and I miss that. But
Yeah.
I think that, you know, and Angela and I try to do it. It ends up, you know, in the living room watching TV more often than it should. But I'll go into the kitchen and I'll sit down with her. Or, you know, it's been a rare occasion. We actually did it. This is the first time that we used our dining room at Christmas just for dinner. And it was just it was
instead
just
of the spread.
right. It was Mary, Angela, and myself, so the three of us, and we had dinner, and it was just sit down dinner, and it wasn't the chaos that is normal Christmas activities, and it was extremely pleasant and enjoyable. We got to actually talk and interact and enjoy. I mean, and to me, that takes the dread out of eating as well, because it doesn't matter what you serve at that point, because you're with your family. Now, I think that if you plan it, you're not going to plan to eat bad food. You're going to plan to eat stuff that you like and that you feel is at least remotely nutritious. And I think that's an extremely positive thing to do.
For sure. And the other thing too is that I see food as a reward all the time.
Right.
And I encourage people to get away from, if you've just accomplished something, instead of saying, you know what, we're all going to go out to dinner and celebrate. It's like pick a different thing. If you've been needing a new pair of shoes and you just have been kind of hesitant to get it, make that the reward instead of making food a reward.
Mm-hmm.
Let yourself go buy that thing that you wanted to buy instead of always food being a reward. But food is just part of our whole culture, and when you're around the table with family and friends, I don't know that there's anything better than sharing a meal with your favorite people. And you can do that and enjoy it. And if it's a holiday, I hate when a holiday comes up and everybody starts talking about how they're gonna make this low fat, this fat free, this, and then guess what? The holiday's over and they don't like anything they ate over the holidays. So then what happens? They make up for it because they still
But if you
end up
make
wanting
it a
to have
miserable experience, doesn't that eventually turn
it
into
doesn't have
you
to
don't
be
want
miserable.
it anymore?
Because people say, Deb, please don't make me eat salmon. I hate salmon. I'm like, then don't eat salmon. Or they'll think,
Right.
well, I've got to run. I hate to run, but that's the best thing I can do for myself. No, it's not. Not if you hate it. So my bottom line is, don't do exercise that you hate,
Right.
and don't eat food that you hate because you think that that's the way to get there.
Well, and let's turn our thoughts to our last talking point here, because this is a word that you wrote down, Deb, that I hold very dear to myself: empowerment.
Yes.
Food and exercise can empower people, and I like that thought, and you probably could speak on it way more than I can, way better than I can, but the idea of empowering yourself to be a better, more well-rounded physical being is what I'm interested in. So tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Well, there is no food that tastes good enough for how great it feels when you've just made a better choice for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I see people get empowered, because it's really a confidence booster and empowering when you just say, you know what, I didn't lay in to that pie last night or whatever it is. And when you wake up and you feel good, doesn't mean you're never going to eat a piece of pie, but you didn't just let it control you like that. And there's something very empowering when you just say, you know what, no, I don't need that today. I can have that in a couple of days if I still want it, but right now I'm just not going to have it. And it's telling ourselves, you could have it, but I choose not to right now.
It's almost self-empowerment. I like the fact that you brought in the word confidence, because when you feel self-empowered, like, I'm going to make good choices today, I'm going to regulate my food to the point where I don't feel bad about it, because you know when you overeat, and you know when you've eaten too many carbs. Now I've got to the point where I know I've eaten too many carbs, and it makes me nauseous almost sometimes. But when I don't, and I get my workout in, I feel confident about having a good day. I feel confident about going into the next day.
And that confidence helps you cope with other stuff in life that comes up. If your body feels miserable,
Right.
you're not going to make good choices and be
No.
rational. I know if I've not eaten correctly in a day, my response can be so much more irrational than I am when I feel good and when my body feels good. And nobody wants their trainer to be irrational for the day.
If I came in and didn't think you had it together, I would be like, no, it's not gonna be a good day.
Not today. Nope.
But that's just that's something that once you feel that and you see it and experience it one time, it's like, okay, do that the next day. And the thing too is that we talked before about binging, and then you just want to cut it off cold turkey. Once you have something that you think, man, I overate, I feel sluggish, my thing is just make a better choice the next time you eat. Don't try to eat lettuce with no dressing on it and celery sticks. You know, I see people punish themselves. It's indulging and then punish, and you're never going to get there with that kind of mentality. It's just do it, make a better choice the next time. If you overate and you feel kind of crummy, then just get up the next day and say, yeah, I'm going to make a better choice for this next meal.
I like the word choice too, because to me, regulating food is about choice.
Sure.
Because you can always pick what you're going to eat, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're out. Let's say you're out and you got $10 in your pocket. Well, what am I going to spend that $10 on? And what's it going to look like, you know? And how am I going to feel after I eat it? And what's going to be the result, mentally and physically, from what I've chosen? And you can choose a hamburger from a fast food place, or you can choose a nice salad from a better restaurant. I mean, you can even order a nice salad from a better restaurant and go pick it up.
Right.
I mean, we're right now with coronavirus, we're in a situation where that's going to be as easy a meal to pick up as it is to go to a fast food place and get a bad meal, because those people are hungry for clients, for people to buy their food, right? They want customers.
Right.
And go order a salad, go order a nice, you know, seafood meal as opposed to the red meat. We can get into the red meat, you know, wormhole. We can get into all these different negative things about the different foods we eat. But ultimately, as Deb said, if you eat a bad meal, don't beat yourself up too bad over it. Just try to make a better choice the next time.
Right.
I don't know. I think we've covered most things today.
Yeah. And try to get some consistency under your belt before you think something's not working.
Consistency is a very
good
word.
Because it's not so much whether the Stairmaster or treadmill or elliptical or recumbent bike. I get asked that too. Well, what's the best though? Should I jump rope and then run and then
Whichever one
lift?
keeps you doing it.
Exactly, Mike. That's the consistency. You know, if you can't,
when you get bored.
Right, and if somebody's eating habits are going to be a lot better if they get to have, I don't know, their favorite coffee with their cream or whatever in it, then don't think that to get where you need to be, you need to strip everything away from yourself and dread sipping on water and think you're going to like it. You know, you have to be patient with yourself and give yourself some time and be consistent with some of those little things, and don't sweat the small stuff.
Lisa, any final questions or thoughts from the She Shed?
The only thought I have is like the overeating and overindulging. I admit I'm a big fan of it, but DoorDash and all those make it very hard for some to sit there and be like, oh, well, to overindulge.
Not when there's a 40% markup on the food you already bought.
True.
Here's the thing too, Lisa, and I love to order my favorite things, and especially if it's cold like we're experiencing here in the Midwest, it's fun to have a bowl of something warm and whatever. But when I get to the DoorDash or I get to, you know, Grubhub or whatever one you're going to have, I always tell myself, just make a good choice when I order, because once I've ordered, there's nothing else they're bringing me other than what I order. So you got to sometimes take that personal responsibility too, and look and go, oh, I'd really like the extra large mac and cheese for my side. But if I just don't do that, DoorDash isn't going to bring it to me if I don't order it. Right. So I try to make good choices when I order, because then I know it ain't gonna just show up, and that helps a lot too. When once you've ordered the right thing, and I try to do that in a restaurant. Sometimes I just get whatever I want because that's what you do. But then other times it's like, you know what? I had a big breakfast, and I'm gonna force myself to order this. And once you tell the server what you want, that's what's coming to you.
I actually really like what you said there about in terms of especially using like the food apps and that kind of thing, because I do think that that's something that people can ask themselves in the moment. And to your point, once that decision's made, it ain't changing. So
Right.
I'm actually going to think about that
Yes.
a little bit more myself when we're doing that.
Well, just lean and green. Make sure you get vegetables. Don't just get the stuff that you love to eat so much.
Right.
Just mix it in.
And people say, well, how many vegetables should I be eating? Everybody wants to be given the perfect recipe for
Right.
eat these foods and do this cardio in this order. And in 6 weeks, you're going to be shredded and be super happy. I wish it worked that way, but it just doesn't. And, just eat some vegetables in a day. Don't worry about whether it was a cup and a half or 3 cups. Eat some vegetables. And then make the next choice.
How about that, Lise?
It's actually makes you think a little bit more before you order. Yes, it makes more sense than me going, oh, I want this. That looks so good.
You
To
gotta
actually think it over.
plan it out before you start looking at those pictures.
I was gonna say too. That's a good point, Jeff. A lot of times, if I'm gonna go out with some friends to a restaurant, I'll pull up the menu ahead of time and tell myself, you know what, I'm gonna get that salmon, so that I already know what I'm gonna get when I get there,
Yeah.
and then I make myself stick to that. And part of that's an inner competitiveness I have with myself, that once I tell myself something, I have to do it,
You gotta hold
because
true.
guess what? If I don't, guess what's gonna come creeping in for me? Guilt.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you can look at things ahead of time and decide, I'm gonna go through that Wendy's drive-through, but I'm getting the grilled chicken on that salad and a small chili, and that, leave, and once you order that, that's what you're going home with, unless you go through the drive-through a second time.
Right. Well, to wrap all this up, and I really think this has been a very good discussion about food, especially. Choices are made one meal at a time, so don't freak out if you make one bad choice. Get to the next meal. The 80-20 rule Deb brought up, and I love that. That means 4 meals a week can be something that you like, as opposed to no meals a week.
Something you like.
Food and exercise can empower you and give you confidence. So make sure that when you're exercising, when you're eating good foods, understand that you're doing good things for yourself, and that it can make you feel better and be more confident in what you do every day. And finally, don't worry about the dread that comes with food, because the positive choices that you make will ultimately outweigh literally the negative things that could come from a bad meal. Lisa, thank you so much for your input. Michael, thank you. And I want to really especially thank Deb Messner from Avenue X Fitness for stopping with and talking to us today.
It's been fun.
I really enjoyed it too. Thanks, Deb.
You're welcome.
And let's take care of ourselves out there.